Hola, bienvenidos a Spirit Soul Sense. Me llamo es Charisse y me encanta español. And yo viví en Miami por 4 años. Okay, so I really do love Spanish, and I used to be fluent when I was in junior high school, but I'm not right now. I know a lot of words and I'm practicing, but oh my gosh, I'm not. I'm so. So I really did live in Miami for 4 years, and I learned so much. This is like mid-20s. I made friends, lost friends, saw like completely different environments than I was used to growing up on a really small island, and I just want to share some of my experiences with you. One of the biggest things about moving to Miami for me was the number of people. Miami is overpopulated, and it shows. You feel it. The traffic is horrible. And it's not like, I know like people compare Miami traffic to New York traffic to like LA traffic, and I think those are all really bad, and they're like the top whatever percentage of really terrible traffic. But I think the thing that makes Miami traffic difficult and different than other places is the level of anger that comes. Miami has a lot of people from different places. I like to think of Miami as a subculture of South Florida, and South Florida is very different from the rest of Florida, and Florida is very different from the rest of the United States. So the driving in Miami is like terrible. It's like terrible. People are not nice on the road. They're very angry. There's so much speeding, and then like there's all these fancy cars because there's so many millionaires in Miami. It's like insane. But it also makes Miami very interesting to look at. There are a lot of subgroups in Miami, right? Because there's so many different cultures, so many different people from different countries, that Miami just ends up being, I wouldn't call it a melting pot. They're really segregated areas of people in Miami. So where I lived in Doral is very close to like the city of Miami, and they're different. Like in Doral, there were a lot of Venezuelans. In other areas, there are a lot of different people. I feel like I was privileged to experience Miami from different lenses. And so I had friends that were from different places, Colombia, Peru, Guatemala, and I got to see like some of those differences, got to eat like really authentic food at some of these like small places that you wouldn't know about if you weren't part of the subculture. Which leads me to like Black Miami, which is like so different. So I lived in Doral for 2 years, and then I moved to North Miami for another 2 years before I moved out of Florida, and very different. Oh my gosh, so different. So the two places I was living fell into Dade County, which is like where Miami is, and then there's Broward County, and then Palm Beach County, and then more other areas that most people don't know about, because I guess it gets into like rural Florida, where a lot of that crazy stuff that you hear about Florida happens, but like also in Dade and Broward, it's just insane. Florida is just a different beast, really, honestly. And I feel really blessed to, have had the experiences with my friends that were from different like Latin American countries, and to also have the experience of Black Miami. Another subculture, right? And so I had made a friend who was very much into Black Miami, and all the people know the people, which reminded me a lot of home, because like when you start getting into people who have money, people who have access, people who have privilege, it starts becoming like a small group of people, like the people who host events. Like there are a lot of people, right? But there are only so many people like running things, and then the same things are happening every year, and the same people are leading them. And so Black Miami is powerful. Black Miami is powerful, and it was just one of those experiences of like eye-opening, how much change and how productive people can be when they work together. That's the one thing I saw there, which helped me, because I remember this was around me living in Miami, was around like the Black Lives Matter movement and people shutting down like highways and all that kind of stuff. And I could see very specifically the things that people were doing in their communities small things, right? These weren't politicians. These weren't like millionaires. These were people who just wanted to help their community. And I saw that, and I saw them networking with other communities like outside of the state. And so when people like are saying, oh, the only thing people are doing is protesting, like I could see, and not just from this one personal experience that I had. I've done my own research. I knew for a fact that there were so many people trying to make so many changes for like at-risk communities, minority communities, because like Hispanic populations and Black populations have very similar like at-risk rates. And so like my understanding of, America and how things worked and how people really are invested in their communities and in learning and growing, I really, really enjoyed it. I met people who didn't know that there was a carnival in Miami, which like blew my mind, but like I get it. Another one of those subculture things, and the Miami Carnival is not run by the government. Like back home, carnivals are put on by the government. The government sets aside money so that we could have this festival, this carnival to celebrate like our history. But since I guess carnival is not like the history of most people in Miami, it's a private event. And so in order to know it exists, you would have to have access to like that information about the history and why there's a carnival and like all that stuff. So I've been to Miami Carnival. It was lit. My only thing is, because it's a private event, you have to pay for everything. I am coming from an island where I don't have to pay for anything. Like I have access to all the events. I think I just have to pay for food, like and the rides. But like I have access to everything. Like I don't have to pay to do a Juve. Who does that? That's the only thing that bothered me. But I get it. It's like a private event. It's not run by the government. And so it's as big as the promoters are able to make it be with the funding that they have. So like, I get it. Oh, the one thing I really thought when I moved to Miami was that I would have to learn Spanish, like for real. I thought I was gonna be able to practice more of my Spanish because there were so many few people who knew English. Not the case. It's really not the case. You don't have to know a lick of Spanish to live in Miami. I had very few opportunities where I had to talk to someone who only knew Spanish. I know there's a lot of people. It's just like, you can get by in Miami only knowing English. You can get by in Miami only knowing Spanish. If you work in certain areas, if you stay in certain populations, like in Hialeah, a lot of people are from Cuba and they only speak Spanish. When they're older, like younger people like me know both languages because they grew up in the school system and had to learn English. But there are, some people who don't know any Spanish and who never leave Hialeah or never leave wherever they live in Broward. Like there's some people who just stay in that area, which I get because back home we have two major towns and the island is already so small, but I know there are people who never leave Frederickstead, who like never go over to the other town. They just stay because they have everything they need right there. So they don't move anywhere. I loved living in Miami. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was definitely an experience. When I was ready to go, I was ready to go. Yeah. And if I ever move back to South Florida, it would definitely be in Broward County. Like that's where most of the Black people are. And I love being surrounded by Blackness. And then the further up you go, the less traffic there is. And so I would like love that. But I have really no intentions of moving back to South Florida. It was an experience. I went there for grad school. I learned a lot about people, different perspectives, how to see the world. It was very eye-opening. And if like you are thinking about moving to Miami, definitely move to Miami. I mean, there's no place in America like Miami. Honestly, there's nowhere like that. People might try to compare it to like LA. LA has like a bigger Mexican population, but it's not the same as these Latin Americans. I'm telling you, it's like not the same. And so if you want to explore Miami and see like all the different subgroups, then you really have to go out of your way to immerse yourself in there, because you could definitely have a straight American experience of Miami. Because even like South Beach is different than City of Miami, than where I lived in Doral, than North Miami. Like it's so different, and there's so many great things to see there. So I would recommend it. Thank you for watching. Welcome to me.